Welcome, everyone. I'm Beck Bamberger. This is Coffee with a Journalist, where we talk with actual reporters, journalists, editors, freelancers, people who are making the media world go round because we need to know how to make better relationships with our reporter friends, media friends as publicists. And that's why we're here on episode, I don't know, 200 and something gazillion. We're on a roll here. With us today, too. The technology reporter is speaking to my heart, Miranda at The Hill, Miranda Nazaro. Wait, did I get it right, Miranda?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, I did. Okay, great. Let's keep going. Great. She's coming to us from D.C. Are you in D.C. right now, Miranda?
I am.
Straight from the heart of things. Miranda, thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It must be such an exciting time to be in DC and be reporting on technology with everything happening. I know you've only been there since September, right? But you were breaking news reporter for about a year. So The Hill is not completely new, but
Correct.
this beat is more new. How is it going so far?
Yeah, like you said, I've only been on the tech beat for, roughly, I guess, give or take 5 months. And
Yeah.
it's been a whirlwind.
Yeah.
I will say when I first started, everything was somewhat in the lens of the election. So what I covered very much depended on the election. So it was a lot of stuff about mis and disinformation, as well as deep fakes and concerns around AI, that sort of thing. Whereas now, I think I'm shifting a little bit more into policy. However, in no way, shape, or form is it any less busy. There's just so much to cover with the tech beat, between whether you're talking about AI, social media companies, Elon Musk as a whole is essentially his own beat at this point. And a lot of our coverage is Elon Musk, which I was not expecting by any means.
Oh my God. I love when you're like, I'm my own beat. Oh my God. That is a level.
Yeah,
That is a level.
it's crazy. We joke that we're tech reporters, but we're also Elon Musk reporters. And obviously, The Hill is politically focused, so most of the
Yes.
coverage that I do kind of has a sort of political or policy angle to it. So never did I think Elon Musk would be top of coverage, but here we are. He's on Capitol Hill, he's at Mar-a-Lago, and so definitely you never know what you're in for covering the tech beat.
Very
But
true.
it's been very fun, and I'm really glad to be covering this beat at a time where it's changing all the time, and
Oh
just
my
there's a lot
God.
of news coming out of it. So
I
it's
I
always fun.
cannot imagine. Okay, so taking a step back, Miranda, for a second,
Yeah.
for those maybe not as familiar, and I do now ask this for every outlet that we talk to, The Hill. How would you describe The Hill's coverage?
Sure. So yeah, it typically they describe it kind of as where the intersection of news meets policy and politics. So
Hmm.
we cover a wide range of beats and news. We cover news that isn't related to politics at times, but for the most part, there's some sort of connection. So for example, when they hired me to the tech beat, my boss said, something I want you to remember is you are not just a tech reporter, you are a political reporter who covers tech. So most of our coverage is
Hmm.
in that lens. Now but we do have beats that, somewhat expand upon beyond politics. So we have a health beat, a defense beat. We have an in the know beat, which is kind of, related to celebrities and how they intertwine with politics. But then we also cover the news of the day. So whether that's emergency somewhere, whether it's, major weather. So it really does vary, but for the most part, our coverage is aimed at being kind of inside Capitol Hill, inside the White House, and giving readers kind of that niche perspective, whereas some other outlets, might be more widespread in the
Yeah.
time. I would say The
Yeah.
Hill is probably a very niche.
It's very DC.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's, bringing you the news, but in the lens of DC. And so that's usually how I describe it. And, there are exceptions to that, things you wouldn't think that we would cover, we very much end up covering. I mean, even for example, at first when the United Healthcare CEO shooting happened earlier this month, I thought that
Hmm.
was going to be a quick post that we did.
No.
Obviously, it's unfolded into a lot more now, but that also relates to politics in a way of,
Yeah.
this anger that we're seeing over the healthcare industry. And so in the end, a lot comes back to policy and politics. So a busy time for all our beats, regardless of what they're covering.
Wow. What a time, Miranda. Thank you for that overview. Okay, now let's get into your inbox. How crazy is your inbox?
Very crazy,
Oh boy.
overwhelmingly crazy.
Oh boy.
I have coworkers who tell me that they like go through and delete and keep their inbox very organized. I have tried to keep it as organized as best as possible. However, I do have 22,000 unread emails, just for context.
Wait. What was the number?
22,000.
Okay, that's not the worst I've heard.
Yes, one of my coworkers is up to like 198,000.
It's not the worst we've heard here.
Yes,
But
yeah.
my favorite of all time is a couple of the outlets. I think it's CNBC and a couple others where every 90 days it just deletes everything. So it's just got
Really?
yes,
That
which
would
is
stress me
terrifying
out.
to me. Terrifying. Because I look at stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, what was that call I had an hour, a year and a half ago or whatever? Oh my God, can you
Yeah,
imagine?
no, I rarely ever actually, even when I delete messages from the inbox, I rarely ever actually completely trash them, because you really never know when you're going to need some sort of email, phone number. And also, when it comes to politics, we're constantly seeing people go from the private sector to
Oh
into
no.
government, and once, or
Oh
vice
no.
versa. So when that happens, it's like you got to have some sort of contact, even if in the moment, to be
Yeah.
honest,
Yeah.
you're not doing anything with them. It could serve a use later. So my inbox is pretty full. I will say part of how I've kind of countered a bit of that is when I joined the Tech Beat, I was like, it's time to create folders. And so I actually have folders for, one is for other tech newsletters. So we have a newsletter ourselves, but for the other outlets. So that's kind of like a good resource for me. I have one that's literally just called Tech Resources, and that's
Mm.
anybody sending me things that are like, hey, here's this new project we're working on. And so not necessarily a story in itself, but might be something as part of something bigger. And then I have a Tech Pitch Sources, which sounds weird, but it was the best title I could come up with. And that's basically anytime publicists, PR companies reach out and say, hey, we have an expert available. Maybe it's a very specific story or maybe a bigger topic. I never delete those. I will admit I don't always respond to them, just given the sheer amount that we get, which I assume we'll get into more. But I don't delete them, which hopefully relieves some publicists. Your emails are not going into a void. A lot of times it's just I'm not covering that anytime soon.
Yeah.
But again, I never delete those. Usually those goes into that folder. And then once I start corresponding with other publicists or comms people from certain companies, I have a separate folder that's like source messages. So trying to have some sense of organization. It's somewhat helped. I will say we're still, for example, in the time that probably you and I are speaking today, and I haven't looked at my Outlook in 20 minutes, I'll come back to like 20 new random emails and stuff. And it's just easy to get behind. So,
oh God. And so, usually don't ask this, Miranda, but like, there's no angst about it. There's no anxiety about it. You're just like, yeah, it's just rolling.
oh, I
You just kind of
definitely have
accept it.
anxiety.
Oh, you do.
I
Okay.
definitely do. I sound relaxed when I say
Yeah.
it. But no, I'm a very anxious person in general. I'm also a very like socially paranoid person, to be candid. And so,
Fascinating.
I do really feel bad and I was trying to respond to every single person, even if I couldn't use it, even if, I was really trying. And lately it's just been, my actual workload has been so much that I don't physically have the time. And so, no, there's definitely a level of anxiety. Also, when like there's been plenty of times where I've missed like actually important emails and when I say important, that could range from actual breaking news to, a source or a publicist reaching out with a source that, really useful, high up sort of source. And, I just missed it in the flurry of things. So, yes, there's a lot of me. When I email, I use too many sorries and apologies for. So yeah, no, there is a good amount of it. It's also a challenge for me because We have a fairly smaller tech team than a lot of
Mm-hmm.
outlets. We only have 2 reporters who are dedicated to
Oh,
covering tech,
phew.
whereas, some of our counterparts even here in DC have anywhere from 5 to 10 reporters covering it. And so as a result, I can't be like, "Oh, I'm just an AI reporter, so don't send me pitches about,
Yeah.
I don't know, kid safety and stuff," because that's not I can't, I don't really have any limitations as to what I cover. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yes, the challenge we're working through, but yes, I do get. I always feel bad about everything, so it's. I feel like it's one of those things where I keep saying I'll
Oh,
catch up with it eventually, and here we are, not catching up with
oh
it.
man. Oh man. Well, and yet you thrive, Miranda, and yet you thrive. Okay. Do
Trying.
you have some examples of pitches that you particularly like?
So yes, one second. So I would say in general, I am somebody like all caps catches my eyes very quickly.
Hmm.
And I mean, I will
Hmm.
at least all caps in the beginning. So for example, I wrote down a few. And
Yeah.
this is one that I actually ended up using.
Oh,
So I
we
was
like proof of like, yeah, no, this actually helps.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was around the time where Bitcoin was like flirting with 100K. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that was correlated with President-elect Trump. And somebody from a PR company had reached out with all caps, like just experts, which I get a lot that start that way. I will admit that. But for me, it was the next part also that really kind of caught my eye, where it wasn't some long title trying to like form the story for me. It was more so it was experts. Then it said Trump crypto boom, comma, as Bitcoin hits 92K. And that was a very straightforward subject
Yep.
line, in my opinion, not trying to overcomplicate it. I quickly was able to figure out, okay, we're talking about crypto, we're talking about Bitcoin and Trump. And
Mm-hmm.
those are
Mm-hmm.
also
All the
keywords
things. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I look up. That's another thing, is looking up keywords in my Outlook to try to find some of these. So in that case, I don't think I had immediately responded. It wasn't until a few days later that I did. And part of that was, oh, I remember somebody saying crypto boom. And for that was just an example that caught my eye. And I ended up talking with the person that they had pitched to me, and it worked out great.
Hmm.
So
Look at
yeah,
that.
I all caps, I will say, is something that that does catch my eye. Whereas, I had another one that, granted, I don't cover this in general, so sometimes you get stuff that just isn't in your beat. I also, cause covering breaking news before, where I covered everything, I just still tend to get a lot of random stuff that's not related. Whereas another one just said in lowercase, like Trump administration housing impact, but it's just too general almost.
Yeah.
It's, I'm like, okay, I guess it's like, okay, if I am looking for a general, and I could read more, but you know, we're usually doing news of the day, news of the week. So, it's helpful to have more specific context,
Mm-hmm.
but not too long, I
Yeah. It's
guess.
got to be in the subject line. It's got to be in the subject line,
Yes.
or you're
Yeah, and it
blazing.
was also confusing at that case. It's like, I don't know, are you offering a person? Are you offering a report? Are you, is this
Yeah.
an embargoed thing? Is this, so that's why kind of that catching you quick, I think, is great. And
Mm-hmm.
also, half the time when I'm out in the field, I'm reading emails just on my phone.
Yeah.
And so, you can only see so much of the
That's right.
line.
Yeah,
So
people
it's
need
like,
to, I think publicists need to think about that more on how many reporters are on the go. So you're looking at it from a phone level, which it limits the
yeah,
number of words.
yeah.
So you got to be even tighter on that.
Yeah, exactly. That I think is probably like the
Yeah.
biggest thing I would note to publicists, is that unless I'm home on my computer, which right now I am, but a lot of
Yeah.
times I'm at the Capitol, and at the Capitol, you can't even have your laptop with you when you're waiting for lawmakers and stuff. So I am completely reliant on my phone. And if I'm scrolling through, I wonder, yeah, I mean, you can
Hmm.
even can't really see, but these are all Outlook messages in the past hour. And,
Oh, God.
I can only see maybe 5 words. So
Yeah.
I would say, and in that
Yeah.
Trump administration housing impact, like that is 4 words, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the spacing wise, I can only see Trump administration, and there the whole subject is, completely lost. So,
There you go.
yeah.
There you go. Ooh. What about relationships relationship building for you, Miranda? You're in DC. Do you ever want to see publicists?
Like in person?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's important for me, especially publicists, who also match that energy. I love to get coffee with the publicists themselves. I understand that their job is difficult in its own way of, they're pitching to people all the time. And I just find it a lot smoother when you are able to have an actual human connection with someone and you're not just somebody I'm talking to over email.
Mm-hmm.
So, I actually, that one of those that the crypto boom one I listed, I actually did literally meet the publicist a few days ago and we had coffee and chatted and stuff. And, so I very much
Love
like
that.
I like to know, what sorts of, because a lot of times they're covering a wide range of clients. It's not just, X person. So you never
Exactly.
know when one of those companies or clients could come in handy.
That's right.
So also it just helps, I think, give a more candid understanding of what I actually cover. Cause, they're just, I sympathize with publicists in a lot of ways. They're trying to figure out, one day they see me writing about data privacy, the next they see me writing about cybersecurity, and it's like, what do you actually cover? And in my case, because
Everything.
I cover a wide gambit, it helps to have a more, candid conversation of, to be honest, I'm not going to be able to cover this, or, you should definitely pitch or send me these when it comes along. So yeah, I'm always in favor, whether it's in person, virtual call, it's nice to just have that open working relationship, I feel like.
By the way, we haven't asked this too often, and I know we got to wrap up here a little bit, but when you do those in-person meetings, what is important for you to hear in them? Because I think it's like, oh my God, I'm getting the meeting in person, but it's like, do I come and say like, here's my 8 clients, please write about them? Or is it just like, hey, who are you? Tell me about you.
I would say initially it's nice just to have a hey, who are you? How are you kind of conversation. And I think it naturally I haven't had a case where like a conversation like that eventually leads to, like, how did you get into this? So, who
Why
are
you doing this? Why are
So,
you insane doing this?
I think if I haven't had any time, or I haven't had any instance where I've sat down and they've just handed me a paper and been like, these are my 8 clients. Let me give you the elevator pitch about all of them. I've never had that, and I hopefully won't. I don't think that is a good approach. I just, because at that point, that's something that you could have done over an email. Whereas, we're both making the effort to be here. I'd rather get to know you. And to be honest, with DC in general, a lot of these, whether it's publicists or a lot of it, some of them came from congressional offices, since moved into the private sector. And so, I don't know. I think it's the more people the better, and especially in a city and business like DC. So yeah, I would say I like the more casual, and there might be a time in the future where you're just calling me and you're telling me your 8 clients, and that's fine. But it's like, I'm a lot more likely to be receptive to that, I think, if I know you just a little bit as a person.
A little bit. Just
a
little bit.
I don't expect to know your deepest, darkest secrets, nor do I want to. But
yes, I like it. Okay, Miranda, is there any pet peeve that you just want to admit on our little show here?
I think that I was thinking about this earlier. I think that when what's the right word? I think sometimes when I get pitched certain sources that just feel really like a stretch, I don't know if that makes sense, but like there are times where I feel like they're trying to relate it back to a news story where unfortunately like that sort of source doesn't really make sense for it. And I've had cases where it's been the same publicist reaching out with the same person, but for drastically different stories. And it's very clear they're just trying to get this person's quote in there. So like, I don't like when it's just like you're throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. Like, when you're more intentional, I think that is helpful for me. Like there's one person I think that has been pitched to me for like at least 8 different storylines that don't necessarily have to do with each other in any way. And it's like, you can't possibly be an expert in all of this. So it gets you skeptical of like how qualified, I guess you could say, as this person to be talking about it.
Hmm.
I would say that, or, also not inviting, like, when I get invited to events by publicists, I really do appreciate it. And it's oftentimes a great place to meet people for sources and stuff. But sometimes there's this like mounting pressure to write standalone pieces on it, which in the Hills case, we sometimes can't accommodate that, writing standalone pieces on a specific event. But I don't want to, like, I don't know, I don't want
Hmm.
that to discourage people from, inviting reporters, because it could
Yeah.
eventually be part of a bigger story. So I
Yeah.
think those are my two, I would say.
Okay. Thank you for describing.
Yeah.
Miranda, we have a little hot list of hot take questions here. Are you ready to answer them?
Oh boy. I guess so. I'm
Yes,
scared.
you know all the answers. Don't worry. Don't worry. Okay. Video or phone interview?
In general, I'd say phone interview. Yeah.
Okay. Bullet points or paragraphs in the pitch?
Bullet points.
Okay. Short or long pitches?
Short.
Hell yeah. It's very rare I hear long, but it happens. Images attached or zip Dropbox file?
Probably images attached.
Hmm. Email or a DM of some sort?
I guess email, I would say. And then
Okay.
I think if I know you further, then, DM, phone
Okay.
number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. One follow-up or multiple?
One follow. Yeah, one follow-up. Again,
Hmm.
there's exceptions, but
Hmm. Hmm. Direct or creative subject lines?
direct.
Mhm. Press release or media kit?
Press release.
Press release. Any time that you particularly read pitches? I know it's like all the time, it sounds like.
Um, Oftentimes mornings are my busiest when it comes to writing. So
Hmm.
it's usually like from the hours of like 3 p.m. Eastern to like 6 is when I catch up on the ones that I didn't see throughout the day.
Okay.
Um,
Miranda, is there anything else you'd like to promote, tout, celebrate about you, about the Hill, about
no,
anything going on besides just survive and have the holiday break that you're looking forward to?
I'm very proud to work at the Hill. I think that,
Yeah.
we are known to be a pretty nonpartisan news organization, and I appreciate that. So I feel like that's something that, is hard to find lately. So in that regard, I feel very lucky to work for the Hill. But otherwise, just looking forward to having a break before the inauguration craziness starts.
Miranda, I would be thinking about you. I think about everybody who's
I
in DC. I'm
appreciate
like, are
that.
you leaving? Are you just trying to survive? What are you trying to do? Yeah,
I appreciate it. It should
Miranda.
be interesting.
Everyone, this is Miranda Nazaro, the technology reporter at The Hill. Godspeed, Miranda. Happy holidays. We're filming this in December. Prayers for you, for inauguration, all the things. And keep up the good work. This,
Thank
this is a
you.
hard beat, politics and technology.
Yes.
Listen, whew,
Very
whew, good job.
well, thank you. I
You're so
appreciate it.
welcome.
I hope you and your team have a great holiday
We
season as well.
will. We will. And looking forward to a bright 2025.